want to tell you a little bit more about what we do, but talk about something specific that individuals like Seth in our company use as part of helping to build and assess skills of individuals, whether healthcare professionals, people, parents, teachers, etc. So just a little bit about us to give you context to the examples that we will show you. We're based here in New York City. As a health simulation company, our goal is really to help people learn how to manage conversations in real life that can improve health. As much as we all have a lot of technology around us, at the end of the day, talking to each other still remain a very important ability and skill for people to have. Whether you're a parent, want to talk to your kids, whether you're friends, or definitely if you're a doctor, as we saw in prior examples, in how you talk and interact with your patient. But having these conversations and talking to a patient who's not adhering to treatment, or talking to a friend that you're concerned about their mental health, are not easy things to do. But you can use games and you can use simulations to give me the practice to do this as a way to help me get more confident and more skills to do this in real life. And this is what our company concentrate on doing it. And the way we do this, and you'll see a few examples, is by literally allowing you to talk with these virtual humans who have a personality, have a memory, and by practicing the conversation with them, be able to build your skill and your confidence. We've been doing it now for about 7, 8 years. The company have grown. We're over 55 people based here in New York City. We've done a lot of work with a lot of different clients and have over 1 million people, everything from, as I said, parents and teachers and doctors who have gone through our simulations on the web or on their mobile devices. And the examples we'll show you today are examples that you can actually access. If you go to the App Store and search for Kognito, you'll be able to actually download and play those as well. This we won't get to, but clearly the fact that I'm allowing you to make decisions in the simulation itself means that I can actually give you a dashboard and feedback about how well you have done. And I may be able to show you in one of the simulations an example of this in the time that we have. So example number 1. This is a simulation that was developed for the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, where they have asked us to help physicians and doctors, as well as patients, to know how to have a more collaborative, more effective conversation with each other. Right? So we've all been to the doctor. Not all of them are really engaging us in a conversation. Not all of us really ask us a lot of questions, and sometimes it may feel like they're just trying to get us out of the room as quickly as possible to get to the next patient. So how do we as patients really speak up? How do we explain why we're here? And how do we make sure that we're actually leaving the room with the information and the knowledge that we wanted? Right? And there are specific skills to do that. These are conversation skills that we can teach you, you can learn, and you can apply. If you're a physician, then your other goal is, how do I talk to Laura, who's the patient who's going to come in, who has been coughing for a couple of weeks and is very convinced that what she needs is antibiotics? How do I actually explain to her, in this case, that antibiotics is not the right thing for her without having her be like, you know, I'm just going to go find it somewhere else because you're not paying attention to me. So how do I really, as a physician, collaborate with her? So we're not talking about clinical skills. We talk about conversation skills here. So let me open this up and actually show you how this works. So we're going to begin. We go to the other screen. Okay. All right, so I'm going to skip the intro where Dr. Turner, it's not showing up. Right. All right, that's not very helpful. Okay, apologize. Looks like it just shut down.
Where is it connected?
All right. All right, sorry for that. All right, so we are now in the menu itself. I'm going to skip the intro where Dr. Turner comes out and explains to you some of the things I just told you in terms of what role you're going to play and what are your goals. And I'm going to go right into the conversation where we can talk with Laura. All right, so I get a little bit of information about her. She's been coughing for a couple of weeks. I did an initial intake visit 2 months ago, and we go right into the conversation itself. All right, so here we are in the actual office visit, right? We're going to play the role of the doctor here on the left, Dr. Wei, and we're going to talk to Laura, who's here on the right. She has been coded with a personality, with memory, based on an entire platform that we have created, and you will see that personality comes out. But remember, what we're here to talk about today is specifically the use of failure as part of a way to get you to understand what is the more effective way to go about it. And it's part of our model in general that we use, where we want to really expose you to effective and ineffective approaches to manage a conversation instead of telling you that, right? So if I begin a simulation by telling you, don't be judgmental and show empathy, it means completely different things to all of us in the room. So unless I give you the ability to experience it, you're not really going to understand what I mean, and you're not going to understand how to effectively use this. So let's make a few decisions, and I'll show you a couple of failures that you can do here, and Seth will explain why, as an instructional designer, he chose to use specifically those. So let me ask her a little bit about how this cough started. Okay, so she responded back. Once in a while, we're going to let you listen to what she's actually thinking. Let's see what she's thinking right now. Right? Which is not uncommon for a patient to think. And by the way, slowly you're going to hear more and more about what she's thinking, as we want to sensitize you to what people are thinking, not just what they're saying. So here is the first, we call it pitfalls. It's an ineffective approach, which is interrupt. Now, we may all agree that interrupting is not a good idea, but it's in here because when you do focus group and you talk with doctors and you talk to the subject matter experts, this is extremely common, and we've probably all experienced that. And when NYU did the study, they observed that the physicians actually choose this. And when they will say, why did you choose this? Well, this is what I normally do in real life. I need to get to the point, right? So they don't actually view this as ineffective. But we're actually going to allow you, therefore, to choose it so you can see how it impacts the patient. And remember that as you're going through this, we are scoring every decision that you make, whether you're going to get more points or we're going to deduct points. And this clearly will deduct points from you later on. So this is clearly not the right way of doing it. And what you could do right now is, one, you could listen to the coach who's going to tell you, hold on, that's not the right way of doing this. And you can just kind of ignore and just keep going. Or you could undo. One of the things that we allow you to do in our simulations, which would be nice to be able to do in real life, you could undo a decision and try a different approach, right? So let me show you a couple more in here. So I can just completely ignore everything and just go and do an examination. Or I can try to empathize, right? Physicians have been told, hey, empathize, empathize, empathize. So here you go, here's an option. You can say something, at least it's Friday, and you can rest on the weekend. All right, so let's see how that works. So clearly, not a good use of empathy, and also shows that you clearly didn't pay attention at the beginning because this was part of her backstory, right? So you just make an assumption that everybody on the weekend just go and have fun. And the virtual coach is going to come out and give you more of that feedback. So let me show you one more. And you'll be surprised when you look at the back end how many users choose these options. And they're completely, it's not like they're, oh, let me see how upset I can get her, which you can. But like they literally, they think that that's the right way of managing it because that's what they do in real life. So I'll show you one more. So you can just, I'm just ignoring her completely. I'm just going to go and do an examination. All right, so we're just going to show you the result of the exam. And when you come back, you need to communicate about it. And this is one of the goals that if we watch the intro, you will see, which we want the doctors to learn how to avoid using medical jargon. Okay, so you have a few ways in which you can communicate how you want to talk about it. I can say, hey, you have acute viral bronchitis. She doesn't even know what that means, and that's wrong, but that's very common. Or you can use something that's more about based on your history and exam. This is a chest cold. And this is, by the way, a point that if you continue to do these pitfalls, she gets pretty upset. She's not going to start yelling at you because that doesn't happen in real life, but you could see an facial expression, and definitely at the end when you get to the dashboard, you will see that that really impacted her emotional state, and therefore her responses to you right now are very different than if you chose more effective approaches. So this is example number one. Let me maybe, Seth, if you want to talk a bit more about why you chose this type of approach in this example.
Oh, sure. You don't want people to walk away from this kind of simulation with questions like, yeah, I get why I should empathize, but what if I just said this instead? I think that would work. You want to give them the chance to say that so they can see that it doesn't work. And then decide, okay, yeah, I guess there's a reason I should, phrase my empathy this way. So we really try to interview people and figure out what are the most common mistakes they make, what are their reasons for doing them, and that's how we picked a lot of those things. Interrupting happens all the time, as Ron said. Empathy, we gave them like a trick empathy option because people think they're doing this right. If you tell them like you could do my empathy, they're like, oh yeah, I do that. But we need to show them, well, there's a difference between good empathy and bad empathy, and give them a chance to mess that up, to see, oh, this isn't working. And they get to their dashboard and see they got like, a 30 out of 100. They're like, oh, but I just chose all the things I usually do, and I guess I have some room for improvement, rather than just trying to like lecture at them.
Yeah, and this, and one of the things that was interesting at the NYU study is that they had physicians, and well, this is the last example with physician. I know you guys heard enough about doctors by now, but they actually ranked their communication skills higher before taking the simulation than at the end, which is interesting, right? Because you're talking to an audience that's just like, I know how to do this. And you're like, sure, why don't you show me how good you can do this? Let's see what score you get. And then as they go through this and they look at their dashboard at the end and see how well they have done or how bad they have done, there's a little bit of this, oh, okay, I guess maybe I should like work on this again and again and again. And that's where you see a lot of replayability within the simulations and people going back and liking to start competing with each other about who gets the best score talking with Laura. So this is, go ahead, sorry.
Just the one thing I want to add is that when you mess up, Laura tells you you messed up. So you're prompted to listen to her is the whole point.
Yeah. So a second example, not no doctors or nurses here. This is a new project we released a couple of weeks ago. Another one that you can actually go to the store and download that was done for Colorado, the state Department of Health. They're running really a statewide initiative to help and encourage the general public to talk to each other relating to conversations about drinking, smoking, and just general substance use. So Colorado is a state that legalized marijuana a few years ago, and there's a lot of great stuff that happened with it, but there's also some concerns that the community have around substance use. So one of the approaches they're taking, which is very interesting, is to help us as just people to recognize when a friend of ours is maybe pushing it a little bit too far and how to talk to them about seeking help, right? We may, all of us may at some point in life had someone that we were concerned about, maybe mental health, maybe substance use. How do we talk to them in a way that doesn't get Jordan, who's here on the right, very defensive, kind of angry, being like, why are you telling me? You're not my dad, don't tell me what to do. How do you really build those skills and the confidence to navigate what could be a very challenging conversation, but very important conversation to have? So this was launched, and it's an app. It's also on the web for really the general public in Colorado to go ahead and play that and encourage people to connect with help. So we're going to play a bit of a video section from it. I don't know if you wanna give a little bit more background on that.
Oh, sure. So the only other thing to know about this scenario is that you're playing as Phil on the left here, and Phil and Jordan are coworkers. They work at a restaurant together. So lately, Jordan's been having some trouble at work, coming in late, missing shifts.
Yeah, and one of the things that Seth and other IDs at the company do is really give Jordan a personality. So who is that person? What is he into this conversation? He likes you, he doesn't like you, he's going to listen to you, he's going to get angry. And that really plays into how he's going to respond. Not to mention how to make this much more of a challenging experience and not an easy one, because that would not reflect real life. All right, so here you make one of the decisions to do, from making small talk to making an observation, and let's see what it chooses.
We have a lot of options to respond to that one. You can imagine what Jordan's thinking. So we're trying to give you the feeling that this isn't working, not just tell you that it isn't working. Like that awkward silence where Phil doesn't have a response, to the question like, don't you come in late sometimes? I want you to feel that, so realize like, this isn't the conversation I want to be having. I want to talk to him about how he feels about his life, if he wants to change, but instead we're just bickering about Greg, the day manager. So
yeah. And one of the things that's clearly tricky here is to create something that we, right, because this is really targeted at all of us, will look at it as a very realistic experience. So yes, there's a little bit of humor here, but also picking the right language and giving you the feedback is important, and making failures not too obvious, right? Because if it's too obvious, then let's just not do this, right? It's really finding those that, for some of us, be like, I don't think that's a wrong thing to do. I do this in real life. Well, go ahead, let's do that. Let's see if it works out well.
Give it a shot. It's that tough love approach. Doesn't lead to change, and instead you end up bickering.
So last example we want to show, we'll do this very quickly. To end on a very serious note, and this was done, this is also, you guys can download it. There's even a Spanish version for this one. This was done for the VA. VA in general has a lot of attention that they pay to mental health for veterans. And one of the key goals that they had was to really help veterans and service members knowing, again, how to help each other. So if I'm a veteran, I came back, and I have a friend who's really having a hard time adjusting to life, to civilian life, because of issues at work, which is on the left, the one in the middle, which we'll show you, were real mental health challenges. This Hector guy on the right there is literally thinking about suicide and has a plan, and all of a sudden you're in this conversation with him. How do you manage it without making a pitfall that in this case can have very, very serious consequences? And on the right here with such family issues. So we'll show you very quickly the video, because I know we're almost out of time here. And you can see that, and we'll conclude with that. So again, you're playing the left person, and you're going to make decisions of what to say. Do you want to give some context just about where we are in the conversation?
So we're jumping in the middle. He's just coming out of him. He's feeling really horrible about the anniversary of his best friend's death in combat, and he's thinking of killing himself. So now you have to choose, what do you say in response?
So not an easy thing to hear, right? But what are you going to do now? How would you respond to this?
So we could have made Hector say any number of realistic things, but we decided to go with something that taught you about his perspective, um, just so we could get you to consider that. Because what's the instructional use in having him say "go away" as his response?
Yeah, and this is one of those where you really have to do a lot of focus group with end users and with subject matter experts as well to really figure it out. So just to conclude, we use failure a lot as even though we won't call it that in the simulations. Really, it has to be, as it says here, tempting, realistic, instructive, and fair. And picking those out are not, oh, there's one more, and memorable.
We forgot memorable.
Yes. So those are the things. We're happy to be here. We have an exhibit table on the second floor, and Seth and I will be outside if any one of you wants to talk. Again, you can find us on the App Store. The ones I showed you are actually free, so you guys can play those. There's more demos on our site. There's another presentation we're doing tomorrow talking specifically about our virtual humans that our Chief Technology Officer is going to do. And so thank you. Appreciate being here. Thank you very much.